Hi everyone, it's Kim. Thanks for joining me. Today we're going to take a look at two new die sets from Simon Hurley for his Halloween collection for Spellbinders. And these are whimsical, non-scary spooks we're going to take a look at. And the first one is these three guys called Boo Crew. They look like they're just out to have a good time, and they've got the eyeglasses and the hats, which will change their personalities, plus this little pumpkin basket and the boo to you sentiment. So let's get started with these guys first. They're easy to put together. It's a die-filled set, that's for sure. But again, they're easy to put together and lots of fun to play with. So here's our first little spook, our first little ghost. He just has the little tie on, and they all have the cheeks that you can put on there if you so desire, just to give them that much more personality. They are two layers, so the top layer, and then there's a little bottom layer here. That just gives a little shadow effect underneath. And I paired all these ghosts with pieces that we looked at from the Craft-A-Ween kit and from my stash. So this little guy is paired up with the haunted house from the 13 Days of Craft-A-Ween, and that is day 11. So super simple, two pieces. I used the bat. And then for my moon, this is actually, I was at my parents' house and I was die cutting some things, and I found this circle in my mom's paper stash. So I just kind of took it. So when I go back and visit them again, I'm going to have to see where this die is. At first, I thought she had just used a piece of paper and cut various things out of it, but I'm convinced this is a die, then that circle cut. So I'm going to have to go and see where that is, because that makes an ideal moon. So sorry, Mom, you're probably finding out about it now, but I did take that out of your paper stash there. But super simple card to make. And again, I don't really think that's very spooky, just more fun. So let's take a look at his two friends. They're wearing the hats and the bow tie. One of them's carrying the little bucket. And then this haunted house is from Tim's collection, where he brought back some of his sets from the vault. So this is the haunted house, and it's the die he brought out this year is exactly like the original die. So I used the moon and the haunted house. Again, two layers for the haunted house. Well, actually one layer for the haunted house. And then I just put the yellow paper behind the windows and then cut out the moon. So you can see these three guys, pretty innocent looking out there, just trying to have some fun. Super simple cards, non-scary. So then I had some more fun with these guys, just trying some different paper. So this is like flock circles on craft paper, just to give them a different look. And then the stripe paper for their hats and ties. I did use the glasses on these guys just to change their personality a little bit. And then I had some things on my desk I could use up. And then I knew I had this old die from Memory Box. So here again, let's go dig in our stash and see what we can combine with the new dies of today. This is Sleepy Hollow oval frame. I love the trees on this, so I wanted to try to combine it with these two whimsical ghosts. And again, not your typical ghosts there, dressed up for a night of fun. On my desk, I have this leaf. Again, this is from one of Tim's brought back dies from the past. This is Leaf Fragments. So this is out again this year. And then this is the original die that I had. And then I did take the word boo from the Boo Crew set and just use that cut out letter piece to put on the leaf. And then I had a leftover mushroom from Studio Lights that we looked at last time. And then this leaf again from last time. This is a leftover piece from Falling Leaves. So I just stuck those on there just to kind of finish decorating out my ghosts. So this is maybe more of a little hodgepodge card with leftover pieces, and then love those ghosts. I think it's fun just to play with them and see how many different looks we can get from them. And then I've seen a lot of pink out this year for Halloween decor. Pink and orange. I was just amazed at how many different um, kind of, I want to say, girly looking Halloween decor that's out there. So I thought I'm going to make some pink ghosts. And, they don't have to go out as ghosts on Halloween. They could dress up as a witch. So these three gals decided to dress up as a witch. And then I used some pieces from the 13 Days of Craftoween. Let's start with this little banner that says Boo. That is from day 4, the little banner that this ghost is holding. And then on day 6, I've used the other pieces. So the hat, they're all wearing the skeleton's hat, the broom, and this little cauldron also come from day 6 of 13 Days of Craftoween. So they're decked out, and then this little pumpkin comes from the Boo Crew set. And then ghouls just want to have fun. And those letters are from an old die from Tim, alphanumeric label. This is the smallest font set that I have, so I use it quite a bit. But again, nothing scary about this card. Just three ghosts dressed up like witches out to have a good night, collect some candy on Halloween. And another set that he has out is this cat. And I love this little kitty. And you can see that they have it dressed up with the hat on and then have it without the hat. And then a nice happy Halloween sentiment, 2 layers, so it has a drop shadow with it. So that kind of gives us a couple different uses for that. But let's take a look at the pink. Let's continue with the pink and orange theme. I don't think this one is scary at all. This is pretty a lighthearted look at Halloween with the 2 cats. So this is how the die would normally be facing if you just cut it out and put it together as shown on the package. But I wanted another cat facing her. So this is the back side of the die cut. So then I just take my bone folder, because you know how we have that kind of little ridge that is along that rough little ridge along the edge, and just smooth that out with my bone folder. So I took all these pieces and then just cut this out and, flipped it over and used the back side basically of the die cut. Love this cat. Very innocent looking. The Spellbound is from, again, it's from those books. Let's find those books. From the 13 Days of Craftoween. There we go. So I just pulled out the Spellbounder. I actually die cut it in some of that fun foam to give it some dimension, and it cut into that really nice. And then I just took a little felt tip marker and just went around it just to highlight that word in the edge a little more to make it pop. And then, of course, I had to put one little spooky thing in there, in that spider, because I thought, the cats might like to either play or attack the spider, although these two look kind of not sure what to do with it. But this is one of my favorite spiders from one of Tim's sets. This is from Vault Gothic Portraits. I think this came out last year, but love that spooky looking spider, one that you really don't want to run into. So I figure the cats will figure out what to do with it sooner or later. But a look at a very, very whimsical, non-spooky kitty cat. And then here is a black cat. We'll use it more in the tradition of Halloween. Again, have fun with the hats. Make them different colors. You can make the cats different colors, obviously. And this is maybe more of a traditional look of the cat on a broom. The broom comes from our little skeleton from Craftoween, again, day 6. I did need to make this a little longer, so I basically die cut one edge, and I didn't cut the actual edge, move the die along the edge and cut another section of it without cutting through the whole die. An easier way would just to be cut 2 of the handles and glue them together. No one would probably even notice that. Happy Halloween is from the Bewitched cat set from Spellbinders. And then the moon. I want to show you really quickly how I made this moon because it is not from a die. Super simple to do this. I just used 2 of my circular dies from a nesting set. You could do this with a punch as well. It would just probably be smaller depending on how large your punches are. But basically, this is what I did. So look on this side here, and I can make my moon different sizes, different widths. But the key to this is to start with the smaller die first rather than the bigger. I know it seems like you'd start with the bigger and then do the smaller, but let me show you real quick why you start with this. You can also, what I did was I just laid this out and played with it because the key here is I need to have these 2 circles intersect on the edge in order to get my moon shape. So I just kind of played with this, whatever size moon I wanted. And once I got it to where, say I want my moon to be this size, I leave my small die down because I can't cut these on top of each other without ruining my die. So I'm going to pull the big one out. I'm going to die cut this out, and then I've got these little die cut edges here. Let me see here. I'll grab a pencil. We'll just mark this so we can line the big die up. So this piece will be gone. This piece will be cut out here, but these are the edges that we need to line up with our big die. So that's why now we can go back, and we've already determined how this is, but you can see why it's important to do the small die first. So now I can line up the edge of my die with the cut edge now of my paper and die cut that out, and I'll have my moon. So let's just do this since we're not actually die cutting it. Oops. Won't be a very straight looking moon here, but you'll get the idea. So now I've got my moon, and this really came down over here a little more. But easy way to make a moon, and just with these 2 dies, you could see how I could change the width and the height a little bit, but you could do the same thing with punches. Just start with the small punch first, then die cut around that with the larger punch. Super easy way to make a moon, different sizes, and you don't need to have a special die for that. So there's our little kitty. For the backgrounds on a lot of these, I used my ink drop pads. This was the black pad. Great looking skies with very little work on my part. And then finally, I want to share one last cat, but no hat. I have a lot of friends who are cat fans. And so here's my little kitty. I die cut the cat out of an ink drops pad. So this is a very light colored, not Halloween at all. Just use the eyes. I even gave her a little rhinestone necklace there, but no hat. And I had this frame. This is an old die from Memory Box, and this is called Palace Oval Frame. Love this very ornate frame. Perfect for my little kitty. So I could give this for whatever occasion. I can come up with whatever occasion and put a banner or put the sentiment down here. The background, I want to just, and this will be kind of hard to see because it's so light, is actually a piece of wallpaper that I rescued a wallpaper book that was headed for the trash, and very ornate, and some of the colors are really deep and lush, so I know I'll be using that again. But I took the lighter color out, I mean texture and color, which I'm sure the camera does not pick up. The background of these 3 troublemakers, or these 3 ghosts, is also a piece of that wallpaper. So if you've got something like that, use it up. It'd be so easy for me to hoard that book, but I'm going to use it. And then if I just insisted on having this for a Halloween card, I could add a little glittery pumpkin to her if I wanted. But I'll definitely be using this cat probably for birthday cards for some of my cat-loving friends. So that gives us an idea of how to use some whimsical Halloween dies. Again, I know not everybody's into Halloween, but this gives you a little different look of how to have some fun with these characters. Change them up, whatever colors you want, and that pretty much makes them in the non-spooky category. And I really did have a lot of fun playing with these guys. So, thank you for joining me, and I'll see you again in a future video.